Are really excited to have two instructors today with us who will be with you the whole time throughout the whole series. So this actually had its roots in Contra Costa Regional Medical Center under Anna Roth when she was the CEO there, and she is now the CEO of overall of Contra Costa Health. Um, but we have expanded it department-wide now, and we're offering it virtually to employees, community members, whoever would like to join. And it's a series that builds upon itself. Nisha, can you just make sure to let people in from the waiting room when you get a moment? And it builds upon itself every session. So each session will be recorded, will be posted if you have to miss one, but it is all the basics of improvement science. So welcome again, everyone. We are very excited to have you here. I wanted to have our two instructor facilitators, improvement advisors, people introduce themselves, and then I think Roberto's going to take over. Dennis, do you want to go first and then Roberto?
Sure. Thank you, Erica. Good afternoon, everybody. This is so exciting. This is the launch of the Virtual Improvement Academy. So we're honored to be here, and we're going to have a great time over the next, say, 6-7 months. And any questions you might have, please feel free to engage, participate, put it in the chat. We're here for you, and we want to make this a great experience. And now I'll turn it over to my colleague, Roberto.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. 12:04. Pleasure to meet you all, and excited to be a part of this Improvement Academy. Definitely we'll be getting well acquainted with each other, and certainly we'll share more about myself, but definitely excited to learn about where you are within the county system, county environment, and within the community in general, and it will be a fun experience. So shall I kind of jump in? Ready to go?
Yeah, I just put in the chat if people could just put in the chat where their name and their organization, just so we know who's here. That would be lovely, just because we have so many people here and we're very excited. So thank you. Take it away, Roberto.
Fantastic, fantastic. All right, so bear with me while I do the screen sharing kind of maneuvering. I need to now do present. Okay. What do we see right now? Is that the bigger version or the kind of the?
I don't see anything.
Oh, okay. Try this again. Do you now see a full screen? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, everybody. You know, this is always the tech maneuvering here while we get started. Okay. So again, welcome to Improvement Academy. This is the first session of a 12-part series. This one being labeled as Introduction to Performance Improvement, and of course a building sequence as we go through this, learning about various tools and the methodologies above it, as well as some historical pieces and how we apply all of that in to your environment in which you either work or live to move forward with making things better. So with that, a little introduction and who I am and maybe why I'm here to begin with. So Roberto Vargas again. I'm Director of Safety and Performance Improvement at Contra Costa Regional Medical Health Center and Clinics, or Contra Medical Center and Health Centers. Sorry about that. And I've been around since 2012. Actually started as a student intern and kind of, you could say, grew and have been doing a number of improvement efforts along the way over the past 11 or so years. That includes a value stream mapping event, which you'll learn about, various process improvement efforts at various areas, whether it's at the hospital or it's at personnel, at our detention facilities, and in which I've led various number of teams towards what was a problem that we had started with, and how do we get towards sustainable improvement over time. So that's me. I guess one of those hats, as you know, most of us probably hold a few here, but yes, one of those hats that I have here, as well as other things at the hospital and clinics. Great. Okay. So next I can advance. Down arrow, up arrow. Click. Okay, click. All right, so first off, again, welcome to this performance improvement journey. And certainly this will be a journey. There'll be, I'll help with that wayfinding and trying to, as we often say, find that true north. And this is definitely a path where you'll be getting acquainted with and familiar with various tiers and levels of improvement efforts within your own life, within your work environment, and how these various tools can be applied to it. So I will, again, help with the wayfinding with this kind of larger scope of ideas, and hopefully bringing in well enough to really understand kind of the complexity of things and the detail of things, and then bring it back up to that larger scale. And certainly, you know, that is a challenge in itself. I remember when I as like an undergraduate, I remember studying like endocrinology and not understanding where some of these hormone pathways were happening in what current system, and then getting lost and applying it elsewhere. Or you know, we'll talk more examples, but there'll be a level of complexity of, okay, so what am I talking about at this given time? And so certainly I invite anybody to you know, raise your hand, ask some questions, and certainly we'll improve along the way. And that brings me to the next point. While we're learning about performance improvement, this is the first session of a 12-part series, like I'd mentioned, and certainly I will actually be utilizing, be doing my own performance improvement on this this session journey, in which I'll be learning from you all, and I'll be trying to improve along the way and getting your feedback. So you know, I'll just say team effort, right? Okay, I think it was click. All right, so what's going on here? 12-part series. Is this the best display? I don't know, but there is we're starting today, January 18th, and we're looking at that introduction to performance improvement. And just to kind of roughly expect what to expect along the way, this does go all the way until July 11th, just heads up. And we'll be learning things around lean, and I'll go into detail about what that is, lean management, the model for improvement, project charter development, which is like documentation of a project, run charts, control charts. Think of that about data analysis and how you represent that in a visual graph. Leans and tools and techniques. So this is another round of more tools to be shared and how to utilize them. I'll be in session 7. I'll be really specific on driver diagrams. I found that it's a very important tool for helping a team visualize what exactly what the problem is, and then what they intend to do to impact that goal and get closer to the end goal of what they want to achieve. And then there'll be group activities with process mapping, which is a little bit of learning how to, whether it's value stream mapping, process mapping, learning about how you would actually visualize a sequence of events over time, which is a process, and we'll learn more about that. And then going into your collecting data, analysis of that data. And then the last 3 sessions are, okay, we've as a group, we've now learned about PI. I certainly want to invite you all to incorporate that PI methodology and apply it into maybe a project with whatever scale you may be working on, and would love to hear about some of that progress that you have individually made or made as a part of a team. And then there will be, following that, we'll be talking more about, okay, so what now, right? What's that next part to make things sustainable, which is, for me, always the biggest challenge, because it's hard to keep things the way you wanted them over time. I think that's entropy, right? The system likes You put some marbles together, you shake it around, and the marbles want to go out all over the table. Things naturally want to break apart. And in this kind of work, we're actually keeping it together and hopefully putting some nice guardrails in place where we can maintain sustainability over time. And then last, further reflection on, hey, so how was this for you all? What could we think about with future collaborations and reflections on this work in total? Okay. All right. I'll ask if any of the facilitation team, if there's any questions that pop up, I'll try to, or comments, I'll try to look at them, but I may need some help. All right. So
sure. We can monitor the chat, and also people can just raise their hands too if they have questions. We would like this to be interactive as well. So I love Roberto and I love everything you have to say. And I also feel like part of the improvement journey is to hear from other people about their experience or questions. And I also just want to say that some of these terms, right, you may not be familiar with. And don't worry, we're going to explain them all. So so don't get worried. And some of you may have lots of experience. So we're interested in everyone. Thank you.
Perfect. No, thank you for setting that, Erica. And again, this is all kind of learning here. I'm going to try and click open chats. Does everyone now see that on my screen? Let's see. I'll move that to the side so I can try and monitor this as well.
We don't see it, so it's fine.
Oh, awesome. I feel like I'm a newbie to Zoom. Okay. All right. Importance of performance improvement. So again, why are you learning about this? What is performance improvement? How can it help you or not help you? So there's some of the big categories that I like to kind of speak towards are these four that are represented here. Efficiency, quality, innovation, and cost reduction. Certainly overall kind of betterment in day-to-day life, certainly whether it's in a work environment or that's in your community home life. Performance improvement, and I know it's sometimes can feel a little bit of a wonky term with this, just think about overall improvement. So this is actually a point where I would love to hear from any of you about how you might imagine if you, for those kind of maybe advanced learners, right? We're kind of trying to figure out where everybody is at in their PI, performance improvement knowledge. Some of you may have received some training in the past. Some of you may be brand new. And so I certainly invite anyone to kind of add into the comments section of how you might imagine improving a certain process or workflow may result in efficiency, quality, innovation, or cost reduction. Certainly, so I would, if you have any examples that you might have in mind, love to hear of what you kind of experienced or where you think this might lead towards. And while that's happening, I'll continue talking here regarding efficiency, a little blurb about that. You might imagine that in improvement work, just the word in itself, right? You're improving something. So improving something, right, has those four components, and you're hoping that you'll learn more about this a little later, but you're removing potential waste from a certain process. And when you remove waste, right, things that are maybe not needed in a given sequence of events, you're making that sequence then shorter. And making that sequence shorter, that potentially might mean you're making things more efficient. And so think about it as whether I was able to maybe get ready in the morning and I was able to like pre-plan my coffee the night before. Maybe I have a coffee pot and everything and I got everything ready the night before rather than in the morning. Got it. So by pre-planning and getting that work done ahead of time, my morning routine is now shorter, right? So now essentially it's become more efficient. With quality, many steps in this process, you can think about, well, and we'll learn about variation, but it might be, okay, so how well is a certain thing happening? And maybe if we continue to talk about my coffee situation, and I'll continue with this example over time here, but maybe I put enough water my coffee pot to then do the whole drip, or maybe I didn't. And so maybe by the end of my little coffee process here, I get coffee that's maybe a little bit too robust than I would prefer, or maybe it's too watered down. So by thinking about, well, how do I like my coffee? And maybe I make certain efforts to have a measuring cup, and I be really specific over time, then my quality over quality of my coffee ends up improving, and it's standard. It's the way I like it, day in, day out. And then with innovation, you can imagine putting your hat on and thinking hat on and trying to think through performance improvement. You may come upon certain kind of epiphanies that say, oh, whoa, I can do this a little differently, right? It might lend towards additional improvement efforts, whether it's within that process or something else. And there's that piece. I think overall cost reduction, again, I'm just saying little blurbs here, and we'll go more into this in detail later, but cost reduction, I might learn, hey, if I really measure my coffee beans, if I'm grinding my own coffee, if I'm taking out of a packet, I have a measuring, I'm not doing these large scoops of coffee that spill over the top and wasn't really needed. And overall, I end up using the right amount of coffee I need every single time. And I find out, you know what, I actually don't need X amount of purchasing of coffee bundles every single month. I can actually reduce it if I'm just more efficient with my use. Great. So let me see here what was that in. So helping to bring big ideas to fruition. So thank you, Katie, and then Erica, Better Care for our residents in Contra Costa. Absolutely. So a little primer on why PI, why are we here, and what might we expect by doing PI efforts, PI performance improvement. And all right, so big ideas here. Now we're going to kind of start getting, I'll kind of go in and out of big ideas and more detailed. And so big ideas. So we have, you'll be hearing about a number of names of kind of our folks way back before us who had done a lot of work in this area of performance improvement or just management theory in total. One of those is Edward Deming, and Edward Deming had come up with, over a long course and career trajectory, had come up with a system of profound knowledge. And there are four main components of system profound knowledge. And I like framing this beginning work around system of profound knowledge because it really just encompasses everything of what we're trying to achieve throughout this course. All right. So the big four are appreciation for a system. Think of that as whether you can an enclosed system. I know you can think about the world, a fish tank, your work environment. Each of those things are systems, and each of those systems have processes, right? And each of the processes may have sub-processes. So again, going back to that morning routine, my morning routine is a process. However, just my little piece of making my coffee is a sub-process of my morning routine. And I could say other things, whether it's brushing my teeth, kind of getting myself all put together, putting on clothes and everything, and switching out from my jammies and everything. That appreciation of all of those processes as sub-processes is obviously an important part of performance improvement as we move forward. Okay, and that just, and by the way, kind of one thing that I left off there is the people within that system. So whether it's me, appreciating me, whether it's appreciating others who are in a process of that system, it's another component of this. And then there's theory of knowledge. This is how we as people kind of appreciate and learn together, okay? And also how we utilize tools to help us to communicate better, work better together. And again, this is another component of needed knowledge to influence overall performance improvement. Okay, going into the next one, psychology. This is about interactions. I love this one. I feel like this was one of those first, I think, epiphanies that I had as a PI person, where I was certainly learning about the ins and outs of utilizing tools, but it didn't quite come together until I understood, you know what, as much as I can use tools and everything, a lot of the work that I was doing ended up working with people, not necessarily the hardcore processes or devices of things. It was the people in that process. And so it allowed me to feel like, wow, I really need to be like this human behaviors expert to really understand motivations, to change, and how to understand people to say, okay, look, we are making a change. You have doing a certain work a certain way, and it's that respect that's needed to now get things started. Because you can imagine the flip to that is me coming in to say everything you've been doing is wrong for many years, and you can imagine there'll probably be some immediate pushback and probably resistance to change. And so there's that great appreciation of interaction between someone coming in or owning a process and appreciating everybody in that process. And then the last part is understanding variation. Another great one that certainly we'll learn more about when it comes to run charts and control charts. I know I totally understand and respect that we haven't yet gone to those terms yet, and we'll certainly get there. I'll just kind of phrase it as you'll learn about data, and in data, when you start analyzing it, you're going to notice that there's variation in data. You can almost apply that to a real situation with, again, let's say my morning routine. Maybe it's about me getting to work, including that morning routine. Maybe I find that my car has a flat in the morning, right? That is something that thankfully doesn't happen often. Hopefully it doesn't happen often to each of you, but let's say that I do have all of a sudden a morning where there's a flat tire. So you might imagine I didn't plan for that, right? I didn't put that into my morning routine and time frame to get to work on time. And so because of this flat tire, I now need to do some special work, right? Whether it's inflated, however it may be, that adds time to my morning. So if I have expected, oh, it only takes me, let's say, 15 minutes every day on a normal day without a flat tire to get to work. Well, now I have to deal with a flat tire as another hour. So great, hour and 15 minutes that cause a variation in my day. Okay, so we're going to be getting familiar with some certain terms here, and that term will be called a special cause. So that flat tire was a special cause in my day-to-day routine. And then things that are not so special, things that don't kind of pop up, that are kind of regular, are common cause. Those are things that are, let's say, me getting into my car, warming up my car, and then driving off, or me getting ready in the morning, or eating breakfast in the morning. Nothing so different, nothing special that had happened, such as a flat tire. And so all of that contributed towards, I guess that's just going to be my expectation of and that's common. So we're going to be learning more about variation in data, and the most important thing is how do we understand how do we actually respond to those certain pieces of information. So for instance, how do I respond to nothing special, kind of going through my morning and I arrive at work, versus how do I respond to a special cause? And what do I do about it? Maybe to make some type of change. So would I, for instance, I got a flat tire one day. Does that mean that I now need to, for the future, every single day moving forward, I need to now plan for a flat tire? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. We will understand over time that was a special event. And as long as I hopefully remedied that situation, I shouldn't really expect that moving forward. So I'm not going to, so I wouldn't necessarily adjust my morning routine from, when I about to get in my car to when I drive off 15 minutes to now expect it's always going to take me an hour and 15 minutes. I wouldn't do that, right? So it's understanding what are those special causes, what do we do with them, and how does it impact your process? Okay. So thinking about process mindset, I kind of walk through, well, I didn't walk through entirely about my morning routine, but I talked about coffee, and I talked about sequences of events. So let's just go a little bit in depth here regarding, so I kept saying the word process. So what is a process? So a series of actions, steps, or events that produce a product, service, an experience, or outcome. Okay. And this is just to kind of spell something out. It would be great. Do I want coffee? Do I not want coffee in the morning? Right here in front of you is a process map. Okay. So process map is a visualization of a process. And the way that you would interpret this is you can see those circular ends, a start and an end. And those are the beginning and end. Everything in between, whether it's those are process steps, and those can be represented by a little diamond shape. And think of that as like a decision. Okay, that a decision needs to be made at that certain process step. And then square boxes represent a process step. So we'll learn more about this, right? I'll have a whole session on process mapping, but just to kind of give you a little primer here. And so yes is, or Y is yes, N is no. And so let's say I want coffee. And so I say, great, I need to grind coffee, prepare coffee pot, measure and fill with water, turn on and make coffee, prepare a coffee mug, put it away, right? We can see how you may be familiar with this process step. And what I would like you to start thinking about is some of the terms that we used earlier. I said efficiency. I said about quality, especially those two, at least in this, I mean, we talk about cost savings as well, and I kind of applied here a little bit already, but you might see how, if I did something a little different in this routine, how I might, if I take out a step, if I combine something together, I might be able to make this process a little bit more efficient, meaning it might take a little less time. Or if I measure better, right? I talked about cost savings. If I learned how to measure better and I didn't have my coffee pouring over the top of my measuring and essentially wasting coffee, that might have the cost savings. If I use the right amount of water, right? That's the quality control of things as well, where I'm ensuring that, well, do I want that really robust coffee or do I want that watered down? Okay. So I want to introduce and invite you all to start, thinking about processes in your own life where you can start visualizing the process steps. Does anybody, and certainly I invite this, where I'll get a little better at this transition with inviting you to participate in the chat, but certainly I would love to hear any processes that you're thinking about, whether it's big, whether it's small, and I've told you about different levels of things a little bit, but what processes might you think you could easily kind of start putting down the steps to? So, all right.
You continue on, Roberto. Can I ask the audience a question?
Yeah.
Okay, audience, what are your top 3 challenges or opportunities for 2024, things that you've been thinking about? And do you understand how those things work from a process perspective now? And if you would be so kind, actually just put it in the chat. Just, like, what are the top 3 challenges or things that you would like to improve in 2024? Myself personally, I need to exercise more and lose weight. But then, just start thinking about it. So at the end of this serious, what we would like is to have everybody being a problem solver and everybody being able to look at any situation, a challenge, opportunity, or problem and say, okay, hey, I know an approach to actually help me create a better solution. So I'll turn it back over to Roberto. I see we have a hand up. Yes, Letty.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I think for myself, I definitely would need to improve on my time management because I do have 3 facilities that I have to split my time with. So that's a little challenging because they are kind of spread out. So my goal is to improve my time management and also build a better process. I have an amazing supportive team, but a better process on getting things done.
Excellent, excellent. And that's a big challenge, covering 3 facilities. Thank you. Any others? Let's take one more.
Hi, Dennis. Hi, everyone. It's Shannon. Can you hear me?
Hi, Shannon. How you doing?
Doing good. One of the processes that is a challenge that I'm excited to work through is working a communication plan for our equity strategic plan this year. Figuring out how it needs to be packaged and how it needs to be disseminated so staff know about it and know how to participate in activities that surround it.
Excellent, excellent. So that psychology of change and what resonates with people and what do they read versus don't read and what's the modality to get it to them and all that good stuff and how will you stick with them. So no, that's excellent, Shannon. Good luck. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Roberto, but yeah, those are really 2 very tangible examples.
Perfect. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everyone, for participating. Okay, so continuing on with process mindset, I've got a few things to kind of mention regarding certain measures or data. We'll get further into this, but you may find that some processes that you have maybe in front of you, ones that you're thinking about right now, are well defined. Okay, and they may be, they're undefined, they're unpredictable, maybe they're not well understood, and there's a high amount of variation. Okay, and then on the other side of things, you might have a process or workflow that you're thinking about regarding to improving or just overall that you experience that is well defined, is well documented. You can repeat the sequence of things, no problem. It's very predictable and it's stable. You might say, well, then that's the goal. You want that process to be defined and documented and repeatable and predictable and stable. And as long as it's all those things, you're all good. And that's not necessarily the truth because there's variation in all of things. Some of things may be performing well. Things that are well defined and documented may be performing well, maybe not performing well. You can imagine that just because a process is well defined and well documented, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best performing process it could possibly be, where it's there's quality built in, there's efficiency built in. It just means that something was documented, right? My coffee process, I can add 10 more steps to that process, and it's definitely defined, it's definitely documented, but maybe it's not performing well because it's not efficient, right? You can see where I'm going with this. Or just because my coffee process is repeatable, because I've now documented it, doesn't necessarily mean that, again, it's performing well. Maybe I need to do things with the arrangement of my kitchen. Maybe I'm walking all over the place to get my mug or my do the water or the coffee beans. I'm walking clear across wherever I need to go, and rather than having one nice little coffee area, right? So just because some things are this kind of nomenclature of predictable, repeatable, or stable doesn't necessarily mean that it's thumbs up, right? And so just a little blurb here, all outcomes, good or bad, are a result of at least one process step. So that's essentially what a process is. There's at least one step in there that's contributing towards good or bad, right? So I certainly want to invite you all to think about the process that you're during that last exercise of thinking through processes that you are wanting to improve for this year. Are they defined and documented? Are they repeatable? Are they predictable? Are they stable? And we'll learn more about the nuances of that over time. Okay. So let's try to kind of simplify some of the language. Looks like the formatting got a little funky here. Let's think about just, again, layman's terms, understanding kind of what goes into making something better. Okay. I kind of have an outline here. And so what do you do first? What might you imagine? Like you're saying here, but I would love to hear from other people's words. What you think first goes into performance improvement and making something better. So first thing would be identify that a problem exists. Okay, right? How can you understand that performance improvement is needed without first kind of doing an understanding, observing that there is a problem to begin with, right? Why spend that time on that something if you haven't done that observation? Then next, figure out why we have the problem, right? So it's now I need to understand, okay, so there is a problem. I know there's a problem. I can see it because I saw it with my own eyes. I know it because maybe someone told me, and I need to investigate further, or I've seen data, or I've seen something that wasn't working, and I know it's a problem, but now I need to figure out why. And we're going to go and utilize some additional techniques with what you'll later hear about 5 whys. Some of you may know about that method, but figuring out why we have that problem. And then next there's that, okay, so I know why that problem exists, and now I need to find some sort of solution that will work. And with that, I want to be careful with utilizing the word solution, and we'll learn more about when you have an idea, that idea isn't necessarily the solution. Your idea is more so a test of change, a test in which you want to see if that idea that you have in your mind to make a change actually results in being the solution, because you have defined criteria around what does success look like. Okay. And then last, figure out how to keep the solutions in place. So this is, remember I alluded to sustainability, figuring out, okay, so I made something better, but now how do I keep my arms around it so it doesn't revert back to messiness or that problem state? Yeah. I think my next slide here will, I think, familiarize. Okay, so, all right. So at this other systematic problem solving area, let me use a different example here. I'm going to use one associated with a car mechanic. Okay, so we talked about tools. We've said that there are certain tools that we're going to be learning over time during the course of this course.
I'm in.
There's okay. We'll be utilizing a number of tools during this session and learning about them. And some of those I kind of called out already, driver diagrams, for instance, to help visualize what's going on in the system. I've talked a little bit about process mapping. I showed you what a process map was roughly. And so, great. Just because you know those tools doesn't necessarily equal change. Okay. And same thing with this, when we talk about this mechanic. Just because a mechanic or someone, maybe not as a mechanic, maybe someone working on their car, about to work on their car, has tools in their hand, right? I have a wrench, screwdriver, whatever I need to start working on my car, doesn't actually mean my car is going to get fixed or me replacing that flat. It just means I have tools in front of me. Okay. That next layer then is, do I know how to use those tools? Do I have the expertise to do them? Does that car mechanic, just because they have knowledge of how to fix a car, does that mean that they actually can do it in a quick way? They know how to do something, but does it take them 3, 4, 5 days versus someone else who may have a different approach, which I'm going to get to, may take them 1 or 2 days. So we're layering on here. We have tools. Does tools alone equal improvement? No. Does knowledge in itself equal improvement? Yes, it does. And in collaboration with other things will help to make things more efficient. So then we go, next layer is system approach. So you think about the mechanic. Is that mechanic methodically figuring out, let's say I have something wrong with my engine? Is the mechanic systematically understanding, okay, what is wrong with this vehicle? So I know there's a problem, the customer brought it to me. Have I now systematically identified what that problem is by checking off my list of things that I think are associated based upon what the customer brought to my attention? And then certainly applying, okay, so can I now remedy that with my knowledge and with my tools? All of that together lends towards this systematic problem solving, which includes efficiency, which includes quality. So standalone doesn't work, but all together does work. Okay, so as you think about performance improvement in your environment, once again, think about how you can piece apart each of these things, what tools you're using, what knowledge you have, and what kind of approach you'll need to do over time to make improvement happen. All right, just a quick little fun diagram here. Everything I said, you may have already learned. And I want to bring this back. High school, great. Hopefully you took some sort of science class. And in that science class, you learned about the scientific method, something that has existed for, I tried to do some research on one scientific method when it first came about, and I got various results, but let's just say thousands of years ago. Okay, mathematicians, astronomers, early had identified and defined a sequence of steps to come to a certain new kind of conclusion or result of what they were seeing in front of them. Okay. So as you can see, and I'll do this with the other methodologies that we learn about, but what are, you can almost start seeing with that other kind of systematic process, you can almost overlap what exactly fits the scientific method. You got observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, right? Testing something, an analysis, and then you come to a conclusion on whether, okay, what did my test result in a change that I liked, that really contributed towards the overall goal, or did it not, right? There are some decisions there that you say, great, maybe I can try this again. And we start using those words, is it repeatable, right? And so if it is, and we made a change, great. How do we continue on that path with saying, now it's going towards that overall effort of sustainability? So while I'm going to say a lot of terms and everything, I really, again, I'm using the word invite you to start thinking about how you've seen this in your own life and how you might apply this. Because again, some of these terms I'll be utilizing are sometimes abstract, but I really am going to try my best to apply that to your real life scenario of what's happening in front of you. Okay, so how did we get here? I know it's a little not so readable, and I'll maybe work on improving this slide here. But just talking about, so performance improvement, main contributors, and we'll talk. There's plenty of people who are not represented here, but just kind of an overall kind of idea of what's happening. You have Eli Whitney, 1850s, interchangeable parts. Think of that as kind of not maybe the individual, but one of those people who has kind of positioned as kind of the father of ensuring that interchangeable parts, that idea exists. So think of that as a device, and being able to not just use that device maybe no longer works and tossing it out, but instead you can actually have a series of parts that are available to potentially get that device to work again. Okay, and then there's one big no, Frederick Taylor, Taylorism, design like standard work, and we'll learn more about that. Say what you will, Taylorism, good for business, maybe not so good for people. There was essentially that work was a contribution of a list of actions that an individual would do to perform a job. Okay, so by with Frederick Taylor, what he had devised was by scoping work into a sequence of events that are understood, not only was it easy to onboard someone who was brand new, but it also simplified the work environment. Okay, so that's his contribution. And then we can keep going. I don't want to go too detail, whether it was Henry Ford, you've probably heard about assembly lines, and Frank and Lillian, married couple, Gilbreth. Lillian was actually born in Oakland, and they contributed towards process maps and waste elimination. And then I'll just kind of keep going. And then in the early 1900s, we have a whole revolution of statisticians, whether it's Joseph Duran, Edward Deming, and Shewhart, all contributing towards what we now know as statistical process control. And we'll learn more about that later. And think about that as control charts. I've used that language before. Control charts, run charts, and how do we actually statistically observe a certain process and put it in a visual manner where we can understand what is the data actually telling us. And then you can start speaking about Taiichi Ohno, which we'll talk about, and the Toyota production system. And I'll actually run to that next, which is the management system and efficiencies of breaking down certain processes and eliminating waste. And for him, as the former CEO of Toyota, you may know today how reliable Toyota cars may be. And so was a main contributor towards overall management and efficiency and waste identification. So all of this leading towards, and you have other people that we'll talk about that contributed towards other models. Yeah. Kind of watching the time here. I think I'm almost done. Okay. So improvement methodologies that we will focus on, whole variety. Okay, there is a plethora of methodologies that we could talk about at length. Some of those that I'll be really focusing on are lean management, and then the Institute for Healthcare Improvement Quality Improvement method. So I alluded to lean management. So what is that, and how is it associated with Toyota? Actually, Toyota Production System is a management system, and it was later termed by an individual as lean manufacturing, and then that kind of stuck. And so what you'll hear often is lean management and its association with Toyota, and how it has to do with maximize value and minimize waste in all its forms. And this was innovated by Taiichi Ohno and colleagues from Toyota, and at the end of World War II. I'll have some stories right after this to share more about that piece. So then there's Institute for Healthcare Improvement, Quality Improvement. It's often called Model for Improvement, and however, MFI, Model for Improvement, isn't actually the full system. It is a component of the IHI Quality Improvement Model. We'll be speaking about that, and I'll be sharing more about what is the Model for Improvement. And that was designed by associates in process improvement, the IHI staff, and then grounded in some people that we had shared, I shared earlier, Walter Schuart, Edward Deming, and Joseph Duran. So thank you, Erica. Lots of resources on IHI.org around improvement science in case anyone's interested. Thank you, thank you. An interesting piece is, how was this kind of history over time kind of designed? I shared about a few members, Edward Deming, Joseph Duran, who were main contributors towards statistical process control. And I shared more about like their standard work that was designed. And in the World War II era, just to kind of focus on that, you may, in the 1940s when World War II had begun, and obviously if you know some history here, the U.S. Needed to ramp up its ability to produce kind of wartime machinery, tanks and planes, and to do that, they utilized tools from some of these individuals that I just mentioned, standard work. So you can imagine that people who were never involved with producing tanks and planes needed to all of a sudden jump in and start helping. And how best to do that then provide standard work. And you can certainly find those online today. And you'll see manuals in which they literally break down how to rivet certain pieces of equipment and all the necessary steps needed to produce that item quickly. And lo and behold, it ended up working, and the U.S. was able to provide or produce and build up their manufacturing processes very, very quickly to then respond to what was happening during that time. Post World War II, so now we're going to the 1950s, these individuals, especially Deming and Duran, were actually later invited by there was I'm forgetting the exact, it was like the Japanese like Council of Engineers had invited those folks over from having heard about some of these methodologies of statistical process control, and invited them to Japan to literally present on this knowledge to various manufacturers. As you know, Japan was left in ruins following World War II, and there needed to be a rebuild. And so this engineers had brought them over to help teach up how to essentially build back up and build back in a way as quickly as possible that led towards efficiency. Keep fast forwarding. Toyota was essentially the group who, not the only, but one of those groups who certainly took the learnings and ran with it, and kind of vaguely overstate that it lends towards what we know today and what I had shared, Toyota being one of the most heavily built-in quality automotive manufacturers in the space. So for whatever reason, and I'm not gonna kind of guess here, the US following World War II did not take that on, and it actually took until I think the 80s and really to the 70s for the US to really recognize the quality that was coming out of Japan and then follow up, and then that brings us where we're at today. So fascinating stuff. I think this is actually my last slide, so I think I did pretty good here. So tools that you will learn over the course of this whole seminar is, I'm not going to actually go through them in detail. I'll just say kind of roughly the big areas. So things associated with project planning, process definition, learning and testing, using data, how to analyze things, thinking about the customer and what does the customer want, team facilitation, because while certainly you can do things individually, lots of times we're put in places where we have to work with others. And so how do we facilitate that conversation? And then sustainability, that fun effort of making things consistent over time. So I hope during this session, you kind of got a little bit of background context of kind of where has PI been in the past? What things are we going to do moving forward with utilizing of tools, and the kind of mindset that is needed to appreciate performance improvement altogether. So I think I will stop there. Yes, and certainly answer any questions that people may have.
Any questions? I saw Marie, you asked about the slides, and we will post a version of the slide, a copy of the slides, as well as the recording of this Zoom session every time after we do this. And Nisha we'll send out the website to make sure that all of you have it. And then also we're going to send a survey, an evaluation survey after every one of these sessions, just so we can keep improving. So look out for that as well. And I see, Anna, your hand's raised. We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, good. I can tell. I find my, okay. So it's been killing me not to talk. That's like specifically said, like, oh, I just want to participate. I just want to say how exciting this is to me personally. Having worked on the Improvement Academy for over, a decade, and being as one of the International Improvement Fellows, having had the chance to work with people like Tom Nolan and those who, thank you, Roberto, for sort of acknowledging the many shoulders, of all the improvement leaders. And I talked a little bit about my, how I'm going to be using these tools this year to kind of work on our strategic imperatives. But I just want to express my gratitude to all of you and to all of those who attended, because improvement is hard and it's easier to do nothing. And so when I see like this large attendance, I feel like so much hope and so much excitement, because the other thing about improvement is it's much funner to do it together than to do it by yourself. And I think, Roberto pointed that out. Systems are made up of people, and people are really the most powerful component of change. And just to talk about like one of the things I know, Roberto sort of laid out the system, his system around making coffee. And for me, I actually have those things. I have systems like drawn all over the place, because kind of once you start to see with improvement eyes, you can't unsee things. And one of the things that, two things I've been working on, I just want to say, besides the strategic imperatives, which you'll hear a lot about like during the board retreat and this year at the budget hearings, and maybe in our director's report where we'll be talking about those, but is also, I've actually sort of been working on customizing a sleep bundle for myself. You'll learn about bundling. To really, I'm really sort of starting to put together a run chart to track kind of nights that I've slept over 6 hours straight. Because I think that what I've come to realize is if I sleep over 6 hours straight, then my probability of achieving some of my improvement work is higher. So I'm going to be, attending this class for both personal reasons, but also professional reasons. And I'm just really, really excited that we're embarking on this, because we have so much important work to do ahead. And it's so wonderful to have this framework and these tools sort of unpacked for us, so we can kind of take on, whatever lies ahead for us. So thank you so much to everyone who put this together, but also to all the people who are attending. Thanks. That was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Feel free to send questions, comments to Clanisha Williams. I think you'll be getting an email from her following this with the evaluation, as well as the link to the website. See you all at our next improvement session. Hopefully it's every first and third Thursday. So the next one is February 1st at noon. So we look forward to seeing you then. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.